All right, everybody. So this is Smash Brothers University Debate Club. The idea is that John and I each have two topics that we're going to talk about. Each one of us is going to have our own topic, our own set of topics. And then each of us is also responsible for coming up with two stage configurations. So when it's my turn to set up the stage, it's John's turn to have a topic. The idea is that we're going to try to have the sort of conversations that we have when we're recording, like now playing, while also trying to do the dumb garbage we do to each other in Smash. So basically, we're going to be puerile individuals playing the game that we are to each other, and then also try to be like adults when we have conversation. Essentially, John, I'm trying to make us be adult children, which is what we are anyway.
I'm a man-child through and through.
Yeah, I mean, we have done like 17 years of a podcast about Nintendo games.
Indeed.
Games for babies.
Hundreds of hours. Games for
babies. Thousands of hours of games for babies.
Yeah, we got to be approaching about 1,000 hours or so.
We did the quick math and found that there's about 40 days of RFN episodes.
That's sad.
That's sad. All right, so this stage is called Battlefield Omega. These are level 9 CPUs.
All right, you want me to introduce the topic?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, the topic is, if Nintendo was going to buy a Western developer, which one would you want them to buy and why?
Ooh. All right, why don't you lead off then?
Okay, let's see. Who would I want them to buy? I don't think I actually thought of the answer. So that's a little bit too much. That's a little bit too much. I mean, really, it would have to be somebody that would kind of make... I mean, they're a lot about getting a developer that's sort of the right fit for them.
Right.
That makes the kinds of games that they want to make. This level is just idiotic. So I think that kind of I think one of the reasons why you know, a lot of Western developers really don't mess with Nintendo very much is because Nintendo is perceived to kind of support or create certain types of games.
But you mean genres?
Yeah, more genres. I mean, like when I think of Western games, I mean I think of stuff like Skyrim. I think of you know, games like that. You know, first-person shooters and stuff like that. There's a lot of stuff that like just historically Western developers just, you know, haven't really dabbled in a lot of, you know, platformers or a lot of stuff that is kind of in Nintendo's wheelhouse. You know, I was thinking, you know, maybe Blizzard, but
that's such a big number that it would cost.
It's a big number.
Yeah, I was thinking a little more controlled.
Yeah.
But what was your reasoning for Blizzard?
Well, Blizzard reminds me a lot of Nintendo in the sense that they don't really care about what... they will kill a game dead if they don't think it's fun. Like, they really don't care.
Like that shooter that they're working on.
Well, no, that's actually going to be really good, but they did have, like, an MMO in the works.
Right.
And for, like, 5, 6, 7 years, and they just killed it outright.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, they never got that right. So, I mean, but
just like the CPU on the stage.
Yeah,
stands there.
Yeah, I really like I really enjoy the barrels, the shooting barrels here.
Just instantly kill you. Watch the CPU though. They don't even attempt to get out of the lava. It's amazing.
I know.
I don't know what happened. Also, it's bullet bills. Just appreciate that in this stage.
Yeah.
So I was thinking something a little bit more reserved.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there are a lot of independent game developers who enjoy their independence, and
yeah.
to that regard, you know, they may not be a good fit for Nintendo. I mean, obviously, there's people who have only made a couple games like Yacht Club who are obviously masters at what they're doing.
Yeah.
But I don't think they would want to be inside a big corporate structure because there's not that many of them.
Yeah.
They're a fairly small team. They can really only work on one game at a time. I don't know if they would fit inside a larger corporate entity.
Yeah, I mean, I would think it's kind of strange because when I think of I mean, you're absolutely right. When I think of you know, companies that I'll probably like Nintendo to buy, they're probably indies that wouldn't want to be in Nintendo anyways.
Right. So I look at companies that they've worked with, and you have like Next Level, who I would imagine at some point the conversations they've had with Nintendo have probably broached the topic.
Yeah.
Because they work with Next Level so much at this point. Next Level's basically an internal studio.
Yeah.
And they're basically acting like it, but they don't. They aren't. I have to imagine at some point Nintendo probably came in and said, what's the number?
Yeah.
And they probably just said, no, we're not really interested.
Yeah.
But they place a ton of faith in them.
Yeah, I mean, they remind me a lot of Insomniac, which actually is a company that would actually probably be a pretty good fit. Now that I think about it, because they are independent again after being in Sony's pocket.
Right.
They were actually owned by Sony, and
just bought themselves out.
Yeah, they bought themselves out. But I think that a lot of the games that they make are very kind of whimsical, and they don't necessarily go for your typical Western fare. They've made first-person shooters and stuff like that, but I mean, they also make like stuff like Ratchet and Clank.
Right.
They make a lot of stuff like that.
Mascot style games.
Yeah, like certainly, even something like Sunset Overdrive is a really unique take on first-person shooters in the Western style, of course, but it's very unique. So I would say Insomniac also. And more realistic than Blizzard. Obviously, Blizzard is not even realistic. It's like saying
that's like saying
they should buy Activision. They're not gonna fucking buy Activision.
They should just buy Microsoft.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, actually, it is like saying they should buy Activision because I mean,
it is Activision Blizzard, but I mean, the Activision that isn't Blizzard.
Yes. God, I can't even follow this shit. What is happening?
Yeah, I don't even know what's happening.
So I would go with great. It spawned me over the suicide cannon. Thanks, game. I would go with the more realistic option myself, and I was thinking something like another company they've worked with a lot, like Monster.
Yeah.
And here's the thought process on that one. Monster has essentially been serving two roles. They make site racing games, but they also spend a lot of time just being retro studios north.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a good role for them because I've played the DS port of Donkey Kong Country Donkey Kong Country Returns, and it's not perfect. Because you're going, you went Wii to 3DS. There's gonna be some sacrifices, but all in all, it works pretty well.
Yeah.
And then Nintendo gave them the Xenoblade port, which I mean we've seen video of. It's not as pretty as the Wii version, but it's certainly not bad.
Yeah. I mean you're working within the confines of a very small screen and stuff like that.
Right. So. And they worked on the Mario Kart stages with Retro. They've helped Retro with Tropical Freeze. Put them under Retro's aegis completely, and just let them be part of a larger Nintendo Studios of North America.
Yeah.
And just let them maybe they make a game internally, or maybe they just do become Retro North. Let Retro work on more than one or two projects at a time.
Yeah. Well, I mean. And, for that matter, too, they're kind of, you have Armature as well down there in Texas.
Yeah, that's true.
And they're doing kinds of stuff. I mean, they did that, the Batman, the Blackgate one. They did that.
And they're doing Bloodstained.
Yeah. Yep. So,
there you go. Congratulations on your collecting money in a complete failure state of a level.
Yeah, I really didn't even know what I was doing in that thing. I mean, I never know what I'm doing in Smash, typically. I mean, everybody saw the tournament.
Oh my god, these scores are ridiculous.
Let me see,
you want the 157.
That was terrible.
All right, well, there you go. There's our answer.
That's the first one.
I'm up next.
All right, folks, get ready. All right, what's the topic, James?
All right, well, tell me what the stage is.
Well, the stage is Kalos Pokemon League, of course, and this is with Gust Bellows and All Hammers and I believe the X Bombs.
And 2X, obviously.
Oh, of course.
So our topic is, and you see I'm dressed like Iga appropriately.
Yep. It's timed also.
What is the impact of the evolution of Kickstarters as sort of the mechanism for creating knockoff retro games of our youth, essentially? And do you anticipate that's the only way we're going to continue to see these kinds of games we want as the major Japanese publishers seem to drop out of the industry?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting how that's happened. You had Bloodstained, of course, which sort of that's the thing. What's funny is that you're kind of seeing just how risk-averse publishers are these days. I mean, they've always been really risk-averse, but I mean, now it seems like especially it's getting worse and worse as games become more and more expensive to make. It's become really bad, and like Iwata, people make fun of Iwata for, I mean, hell, I've made fun of Iwata for, complaining about, well, yeah, please understand, but also when, like, his whole remarks about, how we don't want to drive down the value of games. Well, a lot of what he's said in the past about, games being too much to make, and costing too much, and that's, I mean, it's pretty much coming to pass now, because you've seen the industry, and I'm getting a bit off topic, I'm kind of rambling here, but
it's fine. You got 4 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, you're seeing a lot of the industry, shift over to games that are frankly cheaper to make, and those games are mobile games. So, yeah, and I think you're seeing them also completely avoid taking any chances, making any sort of retro games that may not succeed or may not, like it's either go big or go home now. There's no real in between, and you've seen this with with the complete erasure of.
Shit!
Yeah, I don't know what you were doing. You were just standing there.
Well, hold on, because I was looking for this guy.
But yeah, I mean, I think you'll agree when I say that the mid part of the market, all those medium-sized devs that used to make, kind of,
God hate.
Yeah, stuff like that, or even like some of those like racing games and stuff like that. I mean, not Burnout, because Burnout's kind of still around, but like some of those
Colin
other
McRae.
Yeah, stuff like that. I mean, they've
Before
just gone. They just don't exist anymore, and a lot of those developers, would make something like some sort of newfangled retro, but new version of of a popular kind of retro game like that, and they don't exist anymore. So Kickstarter is their new haven.
So. But to that end, though, you have people like Capcom who still exist and still alleged to make games.
Yep.
And yet they're not making a Mega Man game.
Nope.
That we know of. So you have the staff that made that game go. So they have big, expensive. Would you stand over there and not come after me? Come on. Ego wants to fight. Kickstart your ass beating. They allege that they are in the process of, making a 3DS Mega Man, reboot of a sub-franchise in the series that people love.
Yeah.
And then they just abandon it.
Yep.
Like, they just abandon the whole project.
Yep.
Quite famously, and instead they make another Street Fighter. They make another. They go and make Street Fighter 5 platform exclusive because that's how they could afford to make the game.
Yeah.
At some point, Is Kickstarter more a commentary on the poor health of the third-party publishers, or is it just a commentary on just risk aversion? Because I mean, Konami's weird company right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more of a commentary on the state of the industry in Japan than anything else. Because look at the big games the only games that are really big on the games that are big on Kickstarter are what? Mighty Number 9,
yep.
which is a game that Capcom doesn't want to make anymore. Bloodstain, which is a game that Konami doesn't. I mean, Konami didn't even want to.
It's a game, so Konami does not want to make it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not a friggin' patchy slot game, so Konami therefore doesn't want anything to do with it.
Yeah.
And also RPGs are big, which publishers will not touch with a 10-foot pole, right? Like I'm thinking stuff like Wasteland 2. Like Bard's Tale 4, there's a Kickstarter for that now.
Right.
That kind of stuff where there's a niche audience, probably like, people like me, older gamers.
Who have disposable income, who can afford to pay for the stuff.
Well, exactly, and they really aren't being served. Like, that's the thing, there are a lot of gamers that, grew up in the 80s, that the types of games that were popular in the 80s aren't being made anymore, and frankly, publishers, they are extremely risk averse, and they don't believe there's any money in them. Even though there is, but the publishers, they're like, yeah, somebody else can put that money up. We're not going to figure that out.
So into that end, with like Bloodstain and Yooka-Laylee, you have the developer coming out and saying, hey, we have money coming from other sources.
Yep.
But this is either in the case of Yooka-Laylee to help make the game better, or in the case of Bloodstain to show the publisher, yes, there is a market for this. Is that a fair use of Kickstarter? At that point, like, is there something inauthentic about that?
I don't know. Fair? I don't know. I mean, fair. Does it get the game made?
Yes.
With the game, that's the important thing. Really, it's like fair. I don't know. You could say, is it fair that we as gamers look at these kinds of games and say, yeah, I'd pay for that. But like, third parties just look at it and they're like, yeah, I'm not putting money up for that.
That's fair.
That's not fair either.
Ego wins this conversation about Kickstarters, by the way.
He does. He's a winner.
I do want to point out though that something about these developers coming to us hat in hand in some cases can make them come off as endearing. Like there's something about how Iga handled it, how the guys doing the Kickstarter for Ukulele have handled it, that I've found somewhat charming. And then there's just something about how another publisher dev combo we didn't talk about, Double Fine, who allegedly is Tim Schafer making games Tim Schafer wanted to make for back in the day. That just kind of rubs me the wrong way, and I'm not entirely sure what it is.
Yeah, there's kind of a fine line between there's a game that wouldn't get made,
right?
Like Bloodstained, Konami's not going to make that game,
right? And Bloodstained's not being funded entirely by the Kickstarter, but it's a proof of concept to the publisher, I guess.
Yeah, so that's okay. Like that, I don't mind pitching in money to get that project off the ground.
Maybe it's something closer to. With Double Fine Adventure, where they just said, "Hey, Tim Schafer's gonna make a game. Give us money." Yeah, maybe that's why it rubs me the wrong way, because it's these games were like, "Oh, you are explicitly tapping into a piece of nostalgia I have," versus that where it's just like, "Hey, you guys like Sam & Max Hits the Road, right?" And I'm like, when I was 12, yeah, sure, it was great.
Yeah, I mean, it makes me think of Harmonix with Amplitude.
Yeah.
Now that was an interesting one because I was like, come on, Harmonix. I mean. Yeah, I mean, they're actually, speaking of Insomniac in the earlier piece, they're much in the same boat where they bought themselves back from EA.
Right.
Are you
Activision?
No, they were owned by MTV Games, which was owned by Electronic Arts, wasn't it? Yeah.
So, or like EA was like the exclusive publisher or something like that.
Yeah,
weird.
Yeah, they were, but yeah, so they bought themselves back. Yeah, I think they were owned by MTV Games. MTV Games was like, we're out of here. But I think EA was the publisher of the whole thing, so they bought themselves back from EA and MTV Games effectively. So, but they were much in the same boat where and at first I was kind of harsh on them. I was like, come on, it's Harmonix. They've made lots of games. I mean, they're not a huge company, so they must have some money in the bank. But they were like, but I guess they didn't have the money to actually just front it, like front it kind of sight unseen.
Yeah.
So they were like, meet us halfway, and this game will get made. So.
Yeah. Well, we're getting to see games that we thought may be dead forever. So, John, stage this time is a theme.
All right.
It's called "You Fat Asses Need to Lose Weight."
I picked Ganondorf. He's pretty buff.
We fit trainer and only food items with Wario and King DDD.
All right.
I'm gonna beat the fat out of you.
Well,
so what's our topic, John?
All right, our topic is should Nintendo dive into VR, and if so, what do you think they should do?
Oh, for fuck's sake!
Yep, let's bring it out here. So we got the popular ones right now are of course Oculus Rift, owned by Facebook, that is supposedly going to change the world. Going to have everybody wearing goofy headsets. We also have Sony with Project Morpheus. And I think that's about it. I mean, you have like some other minor players, like Samsung is in there with some kind of VR thing. I think with Valve, I believe they're kind of partnering with Valve on something.
Yeah.
And Google to a certain degree, but they've kind of backed off on that recently. But I mean, they're still working on something behind the scenes. But
they're doing that weird cardboard thing.
Yeah, there's
use your phone.
And I mean, Glass is also still around, and of course you have Microsoft with HoloLens, which looks sort of neat. Who knows how that's going to be? But what do you think? Now Nintendo, they have really done nothing in this area, which is typical. I mean, they're usually.
Well, hold on, they did Virtual Boy.
Well, yeah, and actually, looking way back into the very early '80s, I think they did actually have a VR headset similar to what Sega did with their.
Oh, that thing was a piece of garbage.
Yeah, it was. It was really expensive, and it used like LCD shutter tech that really wasn't very good. But yeah, so they've toyed with it in the past, but Nintendo's very, very cautious with this stuff. So they probably won't enter. But do you think they might dabble in it at some point, maybe with NX? And if so, what do you think they're going to do?
So I mean, the intro concern, also it's 0.5, which is why nobody's died yet. The intro concern I have about using VR is just, it's sort of like the shutter lenses we had on 3D, where people didn't want to wear shit on their face.
Yeah.
And I understand that VR is more than 3D. Like, it's a bigger experience than that. So there is some additional net gain if you're willing to put a big dumb thing on your face, but they're also going to be heavier than the shutter glasses.
Yeah, that's
a lot heavier.
Yeah.
And the question comes down to, are people going to want to put that, to do that? For long play times. Like, there's always going to be early adopters who are like, yeah, I want an Oculus dev kit, even though they told me don't buy the dev kit. It's a dev kit. It's only a proof of concept. You shouldn't buy it. But is there going to be enough people who really want to have, VR on their face?
Yeah, I agree. And I think partially that's probably why Nintendo isn't really, Nintendo's MO is typically, let other companies, this hurts them sometimes, but it also helps them sometimes, is they let other companies make the mistakes and invest the money. And then they kind of take that concept and sort of roll with it or adapt it to how they want. Right? And
yeah, 3D's kind of weird. Like, you can give them credit for that, but at the same time, they were kind of in there earlier than everybody in a way.
For 3D, they were. For online play and networking stuff, horribly behind. Yeah. Horribly behind. Yeah. With some valid reasons, some completely invalid reasons. They've always tried to keep things simple, and I think that may be the way they're looking at VR. They like it a lot, obviously. With the old Virtual Boy, they tried to go there, and they've always kind of been proponents like that. Like you said, with 3D, I mean, they were very much on the cutting edge of that. They recognized it as a new gameplay opportunity. And they saw it, and they were big proponents of it. They kind of saw where things were going, and they were ahead on that. But I think with VR, I think a lot of the concerns that Nintendo probably has are a lot of the concerns that you voiced here, which is, are people actually going to enjoy the kind of gameplay that Nintendo wants to offer with VR?
Right, like, I can't imagine trying to play a Mario game in first person.
Yeah, and and Nintendo has been loath to, and they went against this with the Wii to a certain degree, but they've been typically very loath to have a lot of peripherals. That's always been kind of something that they try to shy away from,
Because you have to make them. That costs money.
Yeah, and I mean, with the Wii, I think they sort of broke that cardinal rule. I think partially because the Wii was so damn popular, they could get away with it.
I think partially because what they built with the Wii, they understood that they were going to have to offer additional options just to make it work.
Yeah, and that gameplay would have to be the gimmick, if you want to call it that, right? Not necessarily, not the graphics. They knew that it was graphically, weaker than its competitors.
So it kind of, like, I personally don't want them to get involved in VR right now. And that's somewhat selfish. I don't like the idea of wearing a VR helmet for anything other than a novelty. Terrifies the shit out of me.
Yeah,
because I just, if I'm playing a console game, I want to sit back and recline in my chair and look at my TV.
Yep.
I'm in the market for buying a 50-inch TV right now, and what good is that if I'm wearing big goggles on my face?
Exactly. I agree.
But there's also the sort of unwritten thing about VR, which is you have to get it perfect, or people just throw up all over themselves. Literally.
I think that would be vetted out with user testing, but still, it will be a problem for people that have never used it before. I mean, definitely. I mean, people. Some people can't play shooters because they get sick because of the camera moving.
Right. But in this case, the camera is strapped to your face, so it's even worse.
Yep.
Because you don't have the solid frame of reference of the real world to sort of mitigate the camera movement stuff. So as you move your head, the game expects, the game is supposed to pivot, because if it doesn't, you'll get sick. If it pivots the wrong way, either too much or too little, you'll also get sick.
Yep.
To be honest, what you would have to do to really make VR work, like as a gameplay conceit, is just going to dramatically increase the cost of producing a lot of games.
Yeah,
And right now, we're already dealing with an industry that is somewhat constrained by the cost of producing the games that they produced, 1 to 2 generations ago.
Yeah.
So if you go and you make this thing out, it's a 360-degree experience that you have to be able to look at from every angle. Just the cost of user testing that goes through.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing that really hasn't been addressed is how much all of this stuff is going to cost. I mean, with Sony's, headset, I mean, from everything I've seen, it's going to cost as much as a PS4.
Right, that's for 1 unit.
For 1 unit. I mean, HoloLens, the thing is, I mean, with HoloLens, Microsoft they're not necessarily aiming, I don't think they're necessarily aiming at a gaming audience. They're going to be making games for it, certainly. But I mean, from what
it's more of an AR device than it is virtual reality.
Exactly, but I mean, even at that, I mean, I've seen rumors floating around that it's going to be like $800, $1,000, which is not a mass market price. That's something that a business would buy.
Right.
Right? And I mean, and Oculus Rift, we don't really know how much that's going to be either, is it? Do we?
No. But in the case of Oculus, they're also saying, like, you have to have a very, very powerful computer for the thing to not just be a stuttering mess.
Yeah.
Which, and of course, they point out, Carmack and Co., who are over there now, point out that if it's a stuttering mess, you're going to throw up all over yourself.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of not sure how Morpheus is going to do it unless there's a dramatic, downplay in the visuals from what you'd expect from PS4.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Knowing Sony, I don't think there will be. I think it'll be really good, but it'll also be incredibly expensive. Because that's what Sony does. They make really, really good, they make really, really well-engineered products that do amazing things and cost a shit ton of money, and nobody buys them and nobody makes games for them.
Well, they're engineered well, except for conceptualized.
Yeah, I mean, they're poorly conceptualized, but it's like, yeah, how can we make the best thing that nobody will buy? Okay, let's do that. That's what Sony does.
The Vita's not selling well. Let's make a TV version of it.
I mean, the reason why the PS4 is doing so well is because literally they just cloned a PS3 and made it a little bit better.
Well, no, they didn't clone a PS3 though.
Well,
because it doesn't use the fucking cell.
It doesn't use a cell. I mean, granted, yes, they just took a PC.
They cloned an Xbox 360.
But I mean, the PS4 in terms of its concept is a clone. I mean, it's a clone of what the PS3. It's like, yeah, we want something that we want something that does exactly what the PS3 does. We're just going to clone that, but like have a PC backing.
Like to me, the PS4 is more of a 360 than anything.
Yeah, effectively, yep. And of course, that's why they're successful. Whereas Microsoft tried to get cute with it, right? And they're the ones that are paying the price for it. So, finally Sony didn't outsmart themselves.
Yeah, I will say to put them,
but they may very well be doing that with their VR headset.
Yeah, to put a more positive. Well, I mean, the question is, does it hurt them? Like Move didn't really hurt them.
No.
I mean, it gave us infinite things to make fun of.
Oh yeah.
I like that this whole matchup is effectively impossible for us.
Yep.
Burn those calories, ladies.
Yep.
Like to put a more positive spin on it, I would be interested in what Nintendo would come up with from a conceptual standpoint, but I wouldn't want to own it. Like, it kind of makes me wish the arcades were still a thing in North America, because, like, that would be where I'd want to see VR get fleshed out. And that would be the kind of experience I'd want to have with VR. Like, oh, limited, I don't have to make a big financial investment to own this stupid thing in my house.
Yeah.
And you can, with an arcade machine, you can make a very shallow game and it'd be okay. You don't have to make a big production, because people are only going to play it for, 3 to 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So you could do things like Time Crisis, and it's okay, because nobody's buying. Well, Namco did sell Time Crisis, but nobody's buying Time Crisis.
Yeah.
Keep your hands and heels.
Oh shit! Oh, I ruined it. All right, we're good.
For 30 to 40 seconds.
Oh, I was gonna butt walk. Damn it! Like, so I don't know. Like, what Nintendo franchise would VR be the coolest with?
Let me see. Nintendo franchise would be coolest with VR?
Work those hips.
Oh man, I mean, I gotta say Metroid Prime.
I was waiting for you to say that.
I can't. I mean, I know that's the most obvious, most predictable response ever, but that would kick a lot of ass.
You know, one that I was thinking of, and you could control the head, the head tracking thing, but just not doing it that much. F-Zero.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool.
Imagine a first-person F-Zero, and because
talk about vomiting all over yourself, man.
Yeah, but see, the thing, you can only see what's directly in front of you because the car only has so much window.
Yeah.
So at some point, when you turn your head so much, it would just stop regarding that you've turned it. But yeah, there is high puke factor there. But again, that would be like an arcade game.
Star Fox would be probably pretty cool.
Yeah, for the same reason, ultimately, because you can control, how much view angles you need to have.
Yep.
But, like, that would be an awesome arcade game. Like, imagine F-Zero AX VR. Like, I would pump $3 into that for a whole race. Like, sense of speed, sense of, movement, like, if you wanted to go the full end, just straight up Sega arcade it and have it like have a rumble seat and shit.
Yeah, I mean now it would be cool to have like Mario Kart if you could do something like, use your hands to actually throw like the peels and throw stuff at people. That'd be really cool.
Oh, that'd be so ridiculous.
Yeah, it would be completely ridiculous.
That'd be but I think what I would most want to see them is just there we go. It's just whatever idea Nintendo's designers would come up with on their own.
Yeah.
Like that to me would be the most interesting.
Yeah. Good job, Wii Fit Trainer. Good job.
Good job, soulless eye monster.
Good job. So, essentially with VR, probably not going to happen, but we'd like to see what Nintendo would do with it.
Yeah. We actually don't want them to make it, but if they did, we'd be pretty cool about it.
Yeah.
We'd manage to get hype. Cool. All right. Last one's coming up. Ow. So I didn't have a sync point for the audio. All right, John, what are we doing this time?
You tell me. You're choosing the topic, but this one, it's pretty simple. It is, it's the star.
Yep.
The star, the wham bam thank you ma'am star. Coins. And I think there's one other thing. I think it's the, there's one other item.
All right. So here's our topic. I was gonna talk about eShop garbage because there is a lot of it, and in fact, it seems to be the only thing that poor Don Koopman does with his life is just consume eShop detritus.
Yes, it's pretty terrible.
So, in fact, this week a game called The Stonecutter came out. Late in your reign as site director and early in Neil's, we used to have a thing where we made fun of the Nintendo Downloads press release. Which we just have an article about the Nintendo Downloads press release, and we would just shit all over it. And not very professional, but a lot of times there's so much garbage in there. Like this week, there were 7 DS iWare games released on the 3DS eShop. 7 DS iWare games from the same GG series. That means one dude somewhere released 7 games. Like, where are we as society?
Yeah, I mean it's right, and I mean I think you kind of saw this starting with the Nintendo DSi.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You had a lot of aquarium games and like fireplace simulators and shit like that.
The Wii U eShop was just as bad, but the DSi was the one that gave us the flashlight. Remember that one?
Yeah. I mean that stuff's just terrible, right? Oh,
yeah.
Look at. Oh, now we're getting jiggly with it. Getting
jiggly with it. So
get me out of here.
So at some point during Neil's reign as site director, he told us we weren't allowed to be funny anymore when we wrote up Nintendo's downloads.
That's Neil killing everybody's fun.
But Neil, who also does some work for IGN on the side, wrote this about The Stonecutter, a quote visual novel with really poorly drawn pictures over iStock photos of China about a stonecutter. And I quote, "The Stonecutter. The Stonecutter is a visual novel about a stonecutter who wants to be a stonecutter of higher status. Thus, he decides to stonecut his way to the stone-cutting top and stonecut with the stonecutters of higher status. The stonecutter learns a valuable lesson about his stone-cutting life in this choose-your-own-adventure stone-cutting story with multiple stone-cutting paths." So I want to change the topic from "God damn it, eShop," and "Don, you need help," to "Give Neil Ron a hand." That's our topic for this one. Is there any debate, or can we just agree? Like, Neil, what's that?
Well, look, Neil, he's a professional. He's just getting a paycheck.
He's a stone-cutting professional?
I'm sure after he did that, he took off the gloves. you know, and you know he took a shower, cleaned himself off because obviously he felt dirty after doing that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if you have not watched the preview for the Stonecutter,
Don has a terrible video.
oh yeah, Don has a video up there. It is. Well, what amazes me is really it amazes me that it gets on the eShop when it's so amateurish.
Yes.
I mean, it's not incompetent, but it's so. I mean, it's literally stock photos of China and text and a voiceover.
It kind of looks like something you would see like in like a really bad like production for like elementary school kids where they would like have like the ruins of a society and they would like draw poorly rendered cartoon figures of what that society looked like.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the first thing, I mean, when I saw it, the first thing I thought was, oh my god. Awesome. 8.5 out of 10, baby. Yeah, I mean, the first thing that I thought when I saw it was that it looks like something that would have been from the old Philips CDI system. That's what it reminds me of. Something that was back when the word edutainment was all the rage.
You know what it reminds me of? Stonecutter.
Ah.
God. So that was Smash Brothers University debate team. It wasn't much of a debate. It was mostly us just riffing. As you riff, as we riffers riffed, while we riffed about things with riffing, as we riffed our way through these riffs of riff stages. But you know, Ronahan. John, it's a pleasure.
Oh, always a pleasure, James.
This is not terribly dissimilar from what we do on a normal day-to-day basis. And
Nope.
now we're going to record Now Playing, so this shit doesn't end. This goes on forever. You can't escape me, John.